Hello, hello, hello. Today I'd like to talk about this fella. I picked him up in one of the Goodwill bins. If you've never heard of the Goodwill bins, they are the last resting stop for stuff that didn't sell in Goodwill stores. And it's also, you can also find stuff that was directly donated to the bins. So that's the good stuff. And then what happens is all these items go out into big giant bins all over the floor, and then after several hours or up to a day or so, they'll actually haul the bins and what's left in them into the back, and they'll destroy them. So you get a lot of random stuff. I find a lot of random figures like this. Hardly ever any sort of more modern GI Joes, and definitely not any Star Wars, or at least some vintage Star Wars. But I found this guy, and I cannot figure out who he is or what he's from. But I wanted to talk about him because he was kind of interesting and different. So what I've got here, I'm trying to identify him is what I'm trying to do. What I have here is a guy that came from a Walmart set. And if you've seen one of my other videos, I actually looked at this toy as I brought it out of the package. He was part of like a dinosaur hunting set. This is the Kid Connection line. And I just wanted to bring him out as sort of an example of what Walmart's Kid Connection toys look like. You can see he's got 3L, 2R, so left and right, obviously. And then if you look on the inside of his arm, he's also got another marking. It's kind of hard to see here, but it says L2, and then there's R2 on the other side. So he's kind of pre-marked, and they're pretty cheap. I mean, you can see here his head is molded in a flesh color, but if you look up under his hat, the whole head is the same thing, and they just painted the top. His proportions are a little off. They're not bad. His lower body looks much better, but his upper body and his head looks a little off proportion. But I just wanted to bring him out as an example of maybe a similar design. If we take a look back at our guy here, if we look at the back, he has a very similar screw pattern, but his quality just isn't up to what this other figure is. This Kid Connection guy's just his quality isn't as good. We look on this guy, I can't find any distinguishing trademarks. We can't find any right or left markings. The only marking this guy has is here on his shoulder. It looks like ES1 or ESI. I'm not sure what that stands for. I'm not for certain. But if you notice, he's got just a jointed waist at the legs, just like the Kid Connection guy. And then he's basically 5 points, plus he's got the 5 point plus the elbows and then the knees, which is kind of becoming more of the standard with just kind of lower end or cheaper action figures. Star Wars has gone back to 5 point because that's cheaper, and they can still charge $10 for those guys, which is ridiculous. Anyway, so I'm trying to think: is this guy a Kid Connection, or is he a Lanard character from the Corpse versus the Curse? Which his sculpting makes me think he might be like part of the lower end of the Corpse. Because I know they had like an Elite edition, which were even better sculpting. But this sculpting isn't actually bad at all. I'm actually pretty impressed. It's still cheap, but it's not that cheap. You can tell his knees were actually, when you bend his knees, you see that he's actually sculpted in black plastic. His feet are black. That's the only thing that's black. But you can see his whole leg is actually black, and they've just painted it brown for the pants. So I guess maybe that was just a cost savings. I guess black was cheaper to mix or something. And then his arm here, he's got, I don't know, the poor guy's got some sort of problem with his skin. I don't know, they just decided to make his arm, put 2 watches on him or whatever they are, but they decided to make his arm, make it flesh colored, even though that's probably supposed to be like a jacket. It looks pretty bizarre. And on this side, he's just kind of got a little bit of a sculpt and then some messy work here. He's got the knives and bullets and pouches and hooks. He's got all sorts of stuff on his chest. And his head moves. Barely. I'd hardly even say that's moving at all. Anyway, so can't figure out who this guy is. He's got no registration markings or anything like that. He's got China on his foot. Big surprise there. Anyway, so if you know what this is, you obviously can't leave a message, but I don't know, hunt me down. Go for the links on our channel and let me know who you think this guy is. This is not a big deal. I just thought it was interesting, and I brought out this guy just to maybe mark him off the list that maybe he wasn't Kid Connection, because this is really cheap. But the holes in the back are the same. Maybe Kid Connection toys are the lower end that Lanard makes. I'm not sure. But either way, that's just what I want to talk about.